and welcome to this tutorial on using Photoshop to create a collage. My name's Jack and I'll be taking you from start to finish on how I would create a collage. Now, you may be surprised to find out that I'm starting here in Adobe Bridge instead of Photoshop, but there's a feature here in Adobe Bridge that will save us a couple of minutes when creating a collage. So I'm going to use these three photos right here to create the collage. And I'm going to click on the first one, shift click on the last one, and go up to your Tools menu and drop down to Photoshop and choose Load Files into Photoshop Layers. Now a lot of people don't even know that command is in there. And it comes in rather large, so I'm going to press Command minus to shrink the document down a little bit so we can see it in our window. And the first thing I need to do is create a background layer. So I'm going to drop to the bottom of the layers palette, and or panel they call them now, and create a new layer. And I want to fill that layer with a color, and this blue is just fine, so click OK. And to fill this layer with the foreground color, press Option Delete on a Mac or Alt Backspace on a PC. And now I'm going to double click the name, and I'm going to rename it Background, if I can spell it correctly. Okay, and then press Enter. And I'm going to click and drag this layer to the bottom of the Layers panel. Now I'm going to turn off the eye icons next to each one of these photos, because what I want to do now, because they're just distracting, what I want to do now is select the Marquee tool, and we're going to use shapes to lay out this collage. So I'm going to click, and I want it to be a perfect square, so I'm going to click and drag out a square about like this, holding the Shift key, and that looks pretty good right there. And what I want to do is fill this shape, but I need to create a new layer to put this shape on, because what we're going to do is use a geeky term called a clipping group to mask these pictures into. And this is really a great way to lay out your documents, by the way, because it allows for a lot of flexibility. And now to fill this, I'm going to press Shift Delete. That would be Shift Backspace on a PC, and that will bring up your fill dialog box. And I'm going to use 50% gray. Now there's nothing special about 50% gray. You could use any color. And that will fill this shape with that color. So I'm going to press Command D to deselect. Now I'm going to create one more new layer, and I'm going to click and drag out another shape about like this, and I'm going to fill that with the 50% gray. So Shift Backspace or Shift Delete on a Mac, click OK, and now you can see we have these two shapes on separate layers, and what we're going to do is clip these pictures into these shapes. Now the first thing I want to do is clip this picture here in to this shape right here. So I'm going to press the Alt key and click on this layer eyeball, and we're going to clip it into this shape here. To do that, this picture needs to be right above that shape layer. So click and drag it down until it's right above the shape layer, and then hold down your Alt key or Option key and move your mouse between the two layers until you get this icon, and that will create a clipping group, that geeky term clipping group. Okay, this photo is rather large, so we need to resize it. And we're going to resize it using the transform. So image, I'm not sure where it is under image, where is it at? Anyway, press Command T or Control T, and then you'll get these resize handles. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and resize the image. If you don't hold down your Shift key, you will end up distorting your photo, and it needs to be shrunk down a little more. Press and hold the Shift key, and something about like that, and press Return. I need to turn the background layer on, by the way. And that's what it looks like so far. But there's one thing I want to do now. Right now, if I select the Move tool and I click on the picture and move it, I'm just moving it inside of this shape, and I want these two to move along with each other. And to do that, we need to link them together. So with the photo layer selected, hold down either the Command or the Shift key, either one will work, and click on the layer below. Now drop down to the bottom of the Layers panel and click on Link Layers. And now, with the Move tool selected, I can click and drag this picture around, and both the shape and the image, now they will move together. And that's what I want. And now I want to center this picture vertically on the page. So to do that, be sure your picture layer is selected and hit Command A. And that will select the rest of the document. And with the Move tool selected, you will get your alignment icons. And I'm going to click on this second icon, Align Vertical Centers. And now this image is perfectly centered on the page. So I'm going to press Command D to deselect. So now I want to clip this image into this layer. So, and it's already right above, so we're in good shape. So with this image selected, let me drag it in the vicinity of this shape layer so we can see it, and hold down the Alt or Option key and click, and this layer is not visible. There we go. So now you can see there's a slight problem here when I move this photo to center it inside of this shape. Down at the bottom you can see the photo is not big enough to fill the whole shape. Well, I don't want to make the picture larger, and I never suggest that you increase the size using free transform. You always want to use free transform to make your picture smaller. So what I'm going to do is select the shape layer and press Command T and shrink the shape layer down to the size of the photo, like that, and then press Return. And now I want to link these two. So with this layer selected, hold down the Shift or Command or Control key, click on that layer and link them. Now they will move together, and that's what I want. So using a feature here inside of Photoshop, we can now use, if I go to View, Show Extras, there's this thing called Smart Guides. And if it will let me, now see that? Do you see that pink line? That tells me that this photo is centered perfectly on this photo. And you can do the same with their tops or the bottoms. You can see that pink line appear. But I want to align their centers. If I can get that to come up again, there we go. Now I know that this image is perfectly centered on the page also. And I'm going to click and drag it over to the right. And by looking at this, I can tell I'm going to want both of these to be a little larger. So I'm going to click on this shape layer, press Command T, and that will, since these are linked, I will be resizing them both at the same time, the picture layer and the shape layer. And I want this to be a little larger. And really, you shouldn't do this because you will lose a little bit of quality by scaling down and then scaling back up, unless you're using smart objects, but we're not. That's another lesson. And I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to click on that shape, press Command T, not Command Y, Command T, and hold down the Shift key. We'll make this one a little larger. And like I said, if I was actually going to print this, I wouldn't do it that way. Because when you size down and resize up, you're losing quality. But for the sake of this tutorial, we'll pretend like these were the final sizes.